This evening, we're going to look at the contempt of the proud. Let's go to Psalm 123. Psalm 123, and we have these words. It is noted as a song of ascents. That's one of the songs that would be sung by groups as they headed toward Jerusalem for times such as the Passover or Pentecost. They would sing these as groups on their way there. But it says this, "Unto you I lift up my eyes, O you who dwell in the heavens. Behold, as the eyes of a servant look to the hand of their master, as the eyes of a maid to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God until He has mercy on us." Have mercy on us, O Lord. Have mercy on us, for we are exceedingly filled with contempt. That is contempt being shown to them. Verse 4, "Our soul is exceedingly filled with the scorn of those who are at ease, with the contempt of the proud." And we're going to look this evening at this contempt that can be of the proud. The proud, and this is, we're going to see it always happens to be against the will of God and His basic plans. If you would, we're going to go to the worst sort to begin with. Let's go to Job chapter 1. We're not going to be speaking about Job here. We're going to be speaking about Satan. Satan is the worst as far as pride and arrogance and scorn and contempt. No one tops him in this category. He is a gold medalist here. And he is the worst you can think of. There is no one beneath him. So we go to Job chapter 1, and we're just going to look at something. Verse 8, "Then the Lord said to Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil?" All right, so this is God's judgment on Job. Job is a righteous man. Job is good. Then we have the words of Satan, because Satan is wicked. Satan doesn't see the goodness in anybody. He is very cynical. He can't imagine that someone would do good for the sake of doing good or actually having a love for God. He can't see that at all. That someone might be obedient to God only because they receive reward from Him. Only is like payment. I'm good, therefore you pay me, and then I'll continue to be good. That's his idea. Now what Satan says is the contempt of the proud. "So Satan answered the Lord and said, Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, around all that he has on every side? Have you blessed the work of his, you have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Now I want you to notice the extraordinary arrogance here. Because Satan is in fact arguing with God. Satan is telling God, his creator. Yes, God created Satan, but he created Satan good. Satan turned wicked on his own will. By himself he did that. But he is telling his creator that he knows more than his creator. Now that is the height of, in my book, the height of stupidity. You can't get more stupid than that, of telling your creator you know more than he does. Telling your creator you know more about the things he created than he does. And you're trying to school him, trying to tell him that, oh yeah, Job's not working for you for free. You've blessed everything he has. All the works of his hands, everything he does. It just turns out well because you have blessed him. but you take these things away and watch what he does. All right, well, as it turns out, that is going to happen. And as it turns out, Job never sins with his lips. Job, while in extraordinary grief, tries to understand what happened to him. And everyone would agree what happened to him was not from a natural source. And they're trying to work it out. Some blaming Job. Job certainly doesn't want to blame himself, and in fact knows that he has been what type of person he has been. But now let's go really to a different example, John chapter 1, because what we have here seems like the words of contempt, and I think it is, but they're coming from a man who Jesus calls an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit, there is no guile. We go to John chapter 1 in verse 45. John 1 in verse 45. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." All right, so Philip finds Nathanael and he tells him, "We found the Christ." And then he gives him the name, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph. And Nathanael keys into one word, and that is Nazareth. And Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Now Nathanael immediately believes on this first encounter. He immediately believes Jesus. Is Jesus of Nazareth, regardless of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth is the Christ, and he knows it. But this is one of those things of looking down your nose at Nazareth, and it would be, we might call it podunk, the old thing of the one-horse town. And truly, it was a place that it's not exactly a crossroads. It would be at the end of the road. I remember Catrice and I years ago went to a place where the only way to get there was one road. And for about 40 minutes, all you're doing is going down this highway where it's nothing but power lines heading to this place. That was it. That's all that was there. And you get there and there's nothing around this place. Well, Nazareth is similar to that. It is out of the way, and it's not as though it were any kind of center of anything. But from there, well, why can't the Christ be raised in Nazareth? He's not born there, but he is raised there. Now, let's go to Acts chapter 17. Acts 17. And we see these Athenians, these intellectuals, they think of themselves as such. And I'm not going to say they weren't intelligent, because I do believe they were. But they were in a time of ignorance, because that's exactly how Paul describes them. Truly, this time of ignorance God overlooked, meaning you're in ignorance. All right, it's time to change this. But we go to verse 18. They have heard bits and pieces of what Paul has been saying in the marketplace. And they say this: "Then certain Epicurean and Stoic philosophers encountered him, and some said, 'What does this babbler want to say?' Others said, 'He seems to be a proclaimer of foreign gods, because he preached to them Jesus and the resurrection.'" All right, now, they call him a babbler. What does this babbler have to say? Well, that's not exactly a compliment. All right, they don't understand what he's saying. They don't. It's a proclaiming of a foreign god to them, and the resurrection. Some very strange subjects to their ears, and they call him a babbler. But we see at the end of this, verse 30, truly these times of ignorance God overlooked, but now commands all men everywhere to repent. He's telling them what to do. And he says he's telling them why. Because he has appointed a day on which he will judge the world in righteousness by the man whom he has ordained. He has given assurance of this to all by raising him from the dead. And here with that statement, and when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, while others said, we will hear you again on this matter. But some mocked. It's like, okay, that's enough. That's enough of this. You know, that I'm not interested in what you have to say anymore. And they make a mockery of it. They agreed with numerous things that Paul would have said because they didn't stop him. They are created. They knew that. That deity created the entire world. They believe that. Thoroughly believe that. And he makes some very good points that they do not stop him on. They might disagree, but they don't stop him. When they get to this, they stop him. And you have this mocking. And okay, and some who said, we will hear you again on this matter, maybe they were sincere about that, but then again, maybe they weren't. We'll, later. And the meaning behind that is never, is what it means. But this is absolute contempt toward the message of the cross, because the message of the cross does include the resurrection. And if there is no continuation of the human soul, if there is no resurrection, then, as we said this morning, we didn't mention where it was being stated, but 1 Corinthians chapter 15, logically put down by Paul. If there's no resurrection, then there is no Christ. It's that simple. If there is no resurrection, then Christ can't save you from anything. And we of all people are the most pitiable. Let's now go to Nehemiah. Nehemiah chapter 4. Nehemiah has returned, he's never been there. Nehemiah, who has been serving the king of Persia, hears concerning Jerusalem, and it's just laying in ruins. And he goes to solve that problem. He gets permission from the king and a letter from the king. And he wants to go and he wants to rebuild the wall. Because in that day, you have walled cities. Walled cities are protected from raiding and from outlaws and from foreign armies and the like, protecting the city and protecting people. And for decades, the walls have been destroyed. You can just walk right into Jerusalem anytime you want, do whatever you want, and leave anytime you want. There's nothing stopping you. He's going to rebuild the wall, and it's also at this time in history that the temple is also going to be rebuilt. This is all happening at this point in time. Nehemiah chapter 4, beginning in verse 1. But it so happened when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was furious and very indignant and mocked the Jews. Here is this contempt. Yeah. Sanballat is an enemy, and he is with an alliance of enemies. He's with other enemies of the Jews, and let's face it, also enemies of God. That's what they were. They did not want that temple rebuilt. They did not want Jerusalem rebuilt, especially not the wall. Verse 2, and he spoke before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they fortify themselves? Will they offer sacrifices? That's returning back to temple worship of the priesthood back at the temple doing what they're supposed to do. They haven't had a temple for decades. Will they complete it in a day? Will they revive the stones from the heaps of rubbish, stones that are burned? Now Tobiah the Ammonite was beside him, and he said, whatever they build, even a fox, if even a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone wall. Hear, O God, for we are despised. Turn their reproach on their own heads, and give them as plunder to a land of captivity. Here is this contempt. Here is they are speaking out of sheer pride in thinking that the Jews can't do this because God's not behind them. And perhaps God doesn't even exist anymore. The God of the Jews is a nothing. Perhaps that is the case. And they are absolutely astonished when we get to verse 6 and verse 15, chapter 6, verse 15. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days, and it happened when all our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by our God. Obviously, everything fell into place to where they could do this and do it right. Significantly, this was a perfectly formed wall. It would keep out any enemy. While they despised the work that was going on, they despised the Jews, they despised God. With all of that, they believe that the righteous will fail. That's the same thing that Satan was saying. Same thing, that the righteous will fail, and also that God will fail them. Let's go now to Psalm 2. And we see this contempt here. And this is Jew and Gentile going together against God. And this is in the same category of arrogance and ridiculousness and stupidity as Satan in arguing with God. In that you think you're going to defeat the plans of God, you can't. If it was years ago, I was teaching a teen class, and sometimes those teens had so much haze in their mind and so ill-focused, and it's just a childish thing that you have to fight and try to get through that haze to show them some sense. And they were quite sure that something could not be done even if God wanted it done. And I told them, if God wanted to destroy this building, what could you do to stop him? And they thought about it and they said, well, nothing. I said, good. If he wanted to destroy the greatest mountain, the largest mountain on earth, and just make it into dust, what could you do to stop it? And they said, nothing. I said, all right. Anything God wills to do, there's nothing you can do to stop it. The best thing is to be on his side. Best thing is to glorify him and all of his works. And whatever he does, if you think what he does is wrong, it's time to rethink. You got some wrong things floating around in your head. It is time to rethink. If you have a hard time understanding right and wrong, just go ahead and mark it that whatever God does is right. He's going to define it as such. He's going to define it that way. So Psalm 2, verse 1, why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? Okay, why are they raging? I don't know. What are they plotting and what's vain about it? I don't know. But it's going to tell us, verse 2, the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together. And here it tells us they are setting themselves, taking counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. All right, when it says they're taking counsel together, they're getting together and they are making plans against God, that is the Lord, and against the Messiah, against the Christ. That's what this word is. They're against Jehovah and his Christ. They want to stop them. And of course, this is a prophecy concerning what would happen with the Sanhedrin court, with that priesthood, with all the Sadducees, and with the various Pharisees, and with the scribes, and with the lawyers, and working with Pilate. Herod on one side, Pilate on the other. Jew and Gentile working together to do this very thing. And then the next 3 verses tell us what's happening in heaven. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. Laugh at what? Laugh at them, thinking that they can defeat him. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. And what's he say? Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. You can't stop it. Go ahead, do the worst you can do. Make your plans, make your schemes, pull your political strings, do all these things you think you need to do to make this happen, but yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. You didn't stop that king at all. You did not stop him. Let's go now to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah, and we'll go to chapter 9. And in this, we have God speaking of punishment that is going to come to Israel. Israel will be punished by God. And they have this contempt for the very idea. Go ahead, and they're saying this, go ahead, okay, let him do his worst. We will rebound. How? How do you think that's going to happen? So we go to Isaiah chapter 9 and we begin in verse 8. The Lord sent a word against Jacob, and it has fallen on Israel. All the people will know, Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, who say in pride and arrogance of heart, the bricks have fallen down, but we will rebuild with hewn stones. All right, so the bricks, that's a lower quality thing. Bricks have fallen down. We're going to rebuild with hewn stones. That's far better than those bricks. All right, looks better anyway, and it's going to be more sturdy. All right, the bricks didn't work. All right, hewn stones it is. The sycamores are cut down, but we will replace them with cedars, far grander of a tree. We will rebound, we will come back, and we will be better than ever. How? If God is punishing you, there's going to be punishment involved. If He is punishing you, you cannot defeat that. You cannot somehow bypass that. It's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. Therefore, the Lord shall set up the adversaries of Rezin against them and spur His enemies on, the Syrians before and the Philistines behind, and they shall devour Israel with an open mouth. For all this His anger is not turned away, but His hand is stretched out still. He is punishing Israel, that northern kingdom, for the idolatry that they have been practicing for way too long. And somehow they think in their mind they are more clever. Somehow they think in their mind it's not that serious. Well, they're in fact going to find out. Now, in every one of these examples, every single one of them, you have this contempt of the proud that is set against God and His people. Whether it's God and His Christ, or that of of his people, whether rebuilding a wall, or God of sending punishment, or a message that is being sent from Christ, it is met in every single one of these, it is met with this contempt. And it is from pride, it's from arrogance, it's thinking that you know better. And there are a lot of folks today that they're not thinking very far at all. And not reasoning very far at all. They think they know when they don't know anything. They have convinced themselves that somehow they are greater than anything God can send, that there is no God anyway, that they will transcend everything. Well, that may not be the case. In time, such people will find out, and they'll find out they were wrong. They'll find out. And it's going to be a hard day. It's a very hard day. You know, there are some people that can make you hate them. There's some that it's like they work very hard for you to hate them. But I tell you what, when I think of what is coming for that type of person, I do pity him. I do. I don't wish such things on anybody. God is going to be the one doing it, and He is the righteous judge. And when the hammer comes down, it's going to be vicious. It is, and it's going to be eternal. Is the ramification, the final place, the final home of these folks, if you don't change, is hell. And it will be real, and it will be eternal. There is no ending that. There's a funny thing about eternity. There's a funny thing about the infinite, which eternity is infinite. Just do a little math. What's half of infinite? It's infinite. Half of infinite is infinite. There is no way to chop it in half or chop it in a quarter. There is no way. You're dealing with something that we're not accustomed to, because everything we deal with on this earth is very temporal. It's short-lived, and it's done. Like right now, with the beauty of the blossoms and in the trees and all that, it passes, and you're on to the next part of the season. In eternity, such things, there is nothing temporal. It's eternal. We ask this evening that we look at our lives and understanding where we stand before God. Don't just assume you know. Go and find out, because it is up to us. Jesus says, ask and it'll be given to you. But that means you've got to ask. Seek and you'll find. That means you've got to seek. Knock and it'll be open to you. Once again, it's an imperative. You have to knock. You have to do these things. This evening, if you need to respond to the invitation, if we can help you in any way, we ask that you come as we stand and sing.